I hate crimes like this. You know why I hate crimes like this? Because they're senseless. They're so easily avoided.
Oh, I didn't think that was like a safe or anything.
What do you think it was?
I thought it was just like a box thing, like a metal box.
I didn't think that was a safe. I mean, sure, it had a combination on it. Sure, it looked like a safe. And sure, it had a handle that you go like this. But I didn't think it was a safe.
Do you use a debit card at the banks?
Yes.
What bank did you go to?
Capital.
How stupid is that? Use the debit card at the bank. Guess what happens? There's a photograph of you being taken, there's probably video of you being taken, and there's a written record of what you just did. Not to mention the fact if you go to a cash machine, they flashes your picture when you take the money out. I mean, come on.
And after reading her journal, it was clear to see the length she went to execute her plan.
So what do we call that journal? Self-snitching. How stupid is that? If you're going to commit crimes, just a word to the wise, don't journal about it. Moron.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer, here to give you analysis, some breakdown of criminal cases that are in the news, and, just to give you some overall good legal advice and advice for life. Coming to you with my pearl-handled pistol cufflinks so graciously gifted to me by our content genius that you know as Michael Rivers, who's behind the ideas, behind the camera. He's the genius that we all know and love. And this is a father-son project. We love that, don't we? All right, today we're reacting to what it's like to interrogate a manipulator. When cops interview people, they know a lot more than they say. In fact, they'll ask you questions they already know the answer to. So just because you think you're smarter than everybody else in the room doesn't mean that you're going to get away with anything. But before we get to this reaction, which I haven't seen yet, so if it's a cold reaction, this is brought to you by eForms.com. eForms.com is a very effective way to avoid guys like me and get a form or any kind of protection you get legally. If you have a power of attorney, it gives you the power to take care of business for somebody else. If you have a bill of sale, either you're selling or buying something, usually a vehicle, you have a legal document where if all of a sudden the guy stiffs you, gives you a bad check, you can now sue him and say, I've got this contract here. I've had to do that with my grandmother. She sold me her four-wheeler, because she was a little bit on the whatever. So she sold me her four-wheeler, but I made her sign a contract. And then she tried to say later on that, I didn't sell it to you, and she's got a little bit of memory problems, so we had to do a power of attorney too. And so I had to show her the contract. And then she backed off. She's a tough little broad, I'm telling you. She drinks like, a six-pack every morning, and then she hits the hot whiskey in the afternoon. eForms.com, effective way to avoid the high-priced lawyer like me form needs. Anyway, all right, so let's get to it. This video was originally done by Mind of a Criminal. So make sure you give them a little love, and they do some really good work too. So go to Mind of a Criminal, and they've got other content that we think is fabulous. So here we go.
This is the case of Paul Quant Sr., a 78-year-old disabled veteran who was subjected to a brutal and agonizing death at the hands of the last person he would suspect. Blues Creek in northwest Gainesville, Florida.
Why does so much bad shit happen in Florida? It's just like it's filled with psychos and people doing stupid shit.
Like a safe place for Paul Quant Sr. to settle down. He lived there for many years, and he seemed to be living a quiet and cheerful life. He was described by many who knew him as a kind-hearted gentleman who always saw the best in people, no matter who they were. On the night of January the 9th, 2012, however, the idyllic vision of his safe neighborhood was shattered when the 78-year-old disabled Navy veteran became the victim of a violent home invasion.
Defending these types of home invasion cases are very difficult because you can't use self-defense, because if your client doesn't live there, he's not supposed to fucking be there. And you can't use, he was a friend, he was invited in, and the person kind of went after him. Because guess what? They're usually nice guys like this who would never do such a thing. My office partner, Joe Friedberg, and I, we tried this really bad home invasion. And our client was a young 18-year-old kid. He knocked the guy out, and the guy was developmentally delayed and living on his own. And so he was out, and while he's raiding the refrigerator, he's just taking anything he can. While my client was doing that, the guy gets up, and somehow my client found a sword and stabbed him through and through. It was just one of the most brutal. I mean, he was just beaten to death. He was stabbed to death, and there's nothing you can do for somebody like that, you know. And so when you have a situation where you have a very sympathetic figure, the home invasion thing, it's got to be I didn't do it. You know, it wasn't me. I was in Detroit at the time. That's the only defense that works, and didn't work for us in that case, by the way.
Investigators described the scene as nothing short of horrific. There was blood all over the carpet. Quant Sr. was left bruised and bloodied, but he managed to get to the home of his neighbor, Virginia Grissom, to beg for help.
That's even worse. That's even worse, because then you have dying declarations. A lot of times a statement from somebody else that's not testifying is called hearsay. And so, but there's an exception to the hearsay rule, and that's the dying declaration. So if somebody just says something just before death, it's deemed to have sufficient indicia of reliability.
Bear in mind, during this phone call to 911, Paul is slowly bleeding to death and is in an indescribable amount of pain. And it's remarkable to see that he still had the courage and bravery to go out and find help.
911, what's the emergency? My next door neighbor has been chopped up. Oh my God, he's in his wheelchair. He's been my neighbor for 8 years.
He's in a wheelchair. That even makes it worse.
What's his name, ma'am? His name is Paul Quant. We're getting you some help. Just stay on the line. Stay with him. Okay, they're coming to your house as fast as they can. Tell me exactly what happened. He's banging on my door. He's covered in head to toe. Covered in blood. He's just someone broken through his house. They tied him up. Okay. He is beaten to a pulp. How many people broke into his house? How many people, Paul? There's this girl and a guy. Oh my.
With this girl and a guy. You hear that in the background?
A man and a woman. Can you ask him when they left his house? About 30 minutes ago, he thinks.
So remember I said about somebody testifying in hearsay. 911 calls are always come in. They're not hearsay.
They cleaned his safe out. And they stole his Cadillac. A white Cadillac Eldorado. His single bedroom for attached. Okay.
Okay, so they cleared out his safe and they stole his Cadillac. You know, I don't know how much money he had in his safe, but it certainly wasn't worth this. And I don't know how much his Cadillac is worth, but number one, it's probably a very identifiable car. And number two, probably not worth a shit ton. Probably an older car, I'm guessing. And this just goes to show you the temerity that people have to commit stupid acts for minuscule gains.
Oh, I know. She's been in the ambulance. I'm so sorry.
With significant head trauma and a sizable piece of his forearm sawed off by a knife, police concluded that he had been tortured in the midst of the robbery, likely in an attempt to get information about valuable assets in the home. Grissom called for an ambulance, and before losing consciousness, Quant Sr. indicated that a male and female suspect were responsible for his attack, and that they had made off with everything, including the contents of his personal safe. Quant Sr. was sent to the hospital, where he was sadly pronounced dead shortly after due to his injuries. Meanwhile, Gainesville Police Department Sergeant Stephen Girard spotted the stolen Cadillac not far from Paul's home.
How dumb is that? I had a girl that I dated in college, and we broke up. And then she started dating this guy shortly after. He beats her dad to death with a baseball bat. And that was like over the weekend. And then on Monday, he tries to cash a $5,000 check on his account. Why the hell? I mean, stupidity of criminals that do this kind of stuff is just beyond me. But all of a sudden you get caught in the guy's fucking car how'd you get the car? You know, I mean, and you're going to probably have blood on you. It's just moronic.
A car chase ensued, with the suspect reaching upwards of 100 miles per hour before ultimately crashing into 2 other vehicles.
Just stupid. Like I said, very easily identifiable car, number one. Number two, not worth a shit ton because it's older. And just for what? For the quick score? So you can go buy drugs, generally speaking? That's probably usually what they do. You know, I mean, it's all this very short-term thinking.
The suspect was searched by police, who found many objects linking him to the crime, including a stun gun, bloody duct tape, and bloody latex gloves.
How do you defend somebody like that? You can't. I mean, you have to, right? And you just have to try to poke holes in what the state brings. But you stick a fork in him, he's over, he's done.
They quickly put him under arrest as he invoked his right to remain silent. Gainesville authorities were able to identify the man as 22-year-old Austin Mark Jones after running his fingerprints through their database. Investigators, however, were still searching for the female attacker that Paul Quant had mentioned to Grissom. By speaking with friends and family, police learned Paul was frequently visited by caregivers and that each healthcare professional was required to sign in and out, confirming.
So an inside job. So, you know, that just adds insult to injury. The person, and now I'm speculating here because I haven't seen it, but the person who is supposed to care for the person is now his attacker.
They had visited him. Authorities found that one caretaker's address matched Mark Jones' current address. It was his 22-year-old cousin, Miranda Martin. At her listed address, investigators found Martin's boyfriend, Chad McKee, who claimed he had no knowledge on the incident. They took him to an interrogation room for a formal interview.
Can you tell me about Miranda?
She's been my girlfriend for about 6 years.
Do you know where she's at right now?
As far as I know, she was at work.
You know a guy by the name of Austin?
He's Miranda's cousin.
He's in jail. Or he's at the hospital. He's fixing to go to jail.
All I can tell you about Austin is that I know he has been in trouble a few times. But other than that, I don't really know Austin.
When's the last time you heard from Miranda?
It was 2:54 a.m. She told me she was at her work, like in her patient had fell asleep. And that was really, I just told her I was watching a movie.
What time was Miranda supposed to get off work?
She told me 8.
Well, we don't want you caught up in something that you shouldn't be caught up in. Because what we're investigating is very serious crime. Attempted murder, home invasion, robbery, a lot of bad stuff.
We really out of character for her to do anything like what you're talking about. I mean, I've been with Miranda for 6 years and she hasn't done anything against the law other than traffic citations.
It's possible she's not involved in this.
No, I know, like I said,
It's possible our information has led us to her. And when we finally reach her, we'll find that she wasn't at all who we were looking to speak with.
Well, if you will, hang tight, and we're going to meet with the sergeant and make sure he's good with everything.
Listen, dude, I don't know what you told them and all this kind of stuff and everything, but I don't think you're being straight up. I find it hard to believe that she's been your girlfriend for several years and you don't know anything.
I mean, what are you asking me if I think that's my girlfriend?
I think that she asked you about it. She mentioned it in front of you.
She didn't mention it to me. I'm just as shocked as you are to find out that you guys are knocking on my door whatever time asking me if my girlfriend's committed attempted murder. Well, she had to go to work, is what she told me.
You just talked to her manager. She said she's not working today. Not at all. Why is she lying now about going to work?
So when you are given an interview, it just is tragic, honestly. When you know that there's shit that they can go check on and see if you're telling the truth or not. For example, she's at work right now. Well, how hard is it for them to go check and see if she's at work? Not bloody hard.
Your guess is as good as mine.
At first, the detectives were adamant that Chad knew what his girlfriend did and was trying his best to cover for her. However, the more they interviewed him and the more they analysed his movement and body language, the more they realised that he was actually telling the truth and was indeed unaware about his girlfriend's despicable plans.
Call her, put her on speaker, say, hey, what's up? Are you coming home? What's the plan? And then we'll just go from there, see what happens.
Now, this is a common tactic, and it's very effective. They do this a lot in crim sex cases, where, be the next day, and the girl will call the guy and say, hey, I don't like what you did to me. And if the guy says, I'm sorry, well, then they kind of got him, on an admission. So she's not suspecting that this is going to be a call from her boyfriend with the cops listening in.
I don't think she's gonna pick up. If Miranda was in trouble.
So tell him to text her, so she can call you right back.
If she couldn't come home to you, what was her mom? What's her name?
Kathy Martin.
The detectives decided to visit Miranda's mother's house in Fort White in order to question her about her daughter's whereabouts, where they surprisingly found Miranda there, hiding out in one of...
I mean, she looks terrible, honestly. Why would you do that to an elderly man who is vulnerable, and just because he's a soft target?
In one of the rooms. Both Miranda and her mother, Kathy Jones Martin, were brought in for questioning. They were placed in 2 different rooms and questioned simultaneously. The detectives' main aim is to establish a timeline and trap them into a story. If any of their accounts differ from one another, it would be a huge step in the case against them.
Tell me about your day yesterday.
I left my apartment. It was around 11, 12, and I went out to my mom's.
Yesterday, between daylight and dark, Austin asked Randy if he'd give him a ride to his lady friend.
I met up with some chick, and that's the last I seen him.
He met up with some chick.
Gave Austin a ride to work.
It was a parking lot off of, I don't know if it was 13th or 440 White. I just dropped him off and left.
Okay, when you dropped him off and left, where'd you go?
Dad thought I had to work, so I had to go back and pretend like I was getting my work clothes.
Why are you lying to Chad?
So, she's got herself lying already. That doesn't bode well for her down the road.
I lied to him last night because I just wanted to spend a night with my mom and everything.
Okay, why would you lie to your fucking boyfriend if you wanted to spend the night with your mom and everything? That doesn't make sense.
And I didn't want him to get mad, so I told him I was working.
In the short time she was interviewed, Miranda has already admitted to willingly lying to her boyfriend about her whereabouts. It's clear to see that this is a sign of her true nature beginning to show. Somebody who is willing to deceive and fabricate the truth in order to receive what she wants.
On that note, anything she says now is questionable, right? And if she gets on the stand, the first thing that the prosecutor would do is just call into question her credibility. Your credibility is the only thing you fucking have. And if you ain't got anything positive to say that you can back up, guess what you do? You stop yourself snitching.
Okay, so you dropped Austin off and drove back to your mom's.
Yes.
So what time do you think you got to your mom's?
It was like 10.
Okay, so she left around dusk.
Made it in between 10 and 11.
Okay.
But it's, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6 hours she's gone to just drop him off. Did she say if she went anywhere else after that? Or?
Well, I thought she was going to work.
If you can think of anything, I would much rather lay everything on the table. You know, I don't know. Maybe everything that you've told us is what you know. I don't know. But I just like to let people know that from the very beginning.
You were in Fort White at 10 o'clock.
Here's the other thing. When you fudge on your time, you have what? That digital footprint. Remember that? So if you're carrying your phone around and if it's on, even if it's not on sometimes, you can hit a tower, you hit this and that. They can generally track where you are.
Take it that you had your phone with you.
The detectives believed that she was in Gainesville, where Paul Quant resided, on Monday, January 9th. However, both Miranda and her mother are adamant that she was in Fort White that night, 32 miles away from Gainesville, because Miranda wanted to spend the night with her mother. The detectives need to first of all prove that this is not true.
Who fucking believes that? I mean, that's a dumb lie. I mean, nobody believes that.
If they want to build a case against her.
If your signal was bouncing off a tower towards Gainesville at 11 o'clock, would that surprise you?
Yeah, it would surprise me.
Here's the other thing. Just as much as having a cell tower hit on a particular device, the fact that a device is turned off for a particular period of time is also of some evidentiary value.
There is a reason we want you to be able to explain it now before.
Okay, because I thought my boyfriend was cheating on me, okay? So I drove back just to see if his car was in the parking lot.
You drove by where?
My apartment.
And you got back to Gainesville at what time now?
It was around like 1 or 1:30.
And just like that, the detectives got what they wanted. Miranda changed her story and said she went back to Gainesville to check up on her boyfriend, placing herself in the area at the time the crime occurred.
We have some reservations about where your daughter was last night. Please, be honest.
She spent the night at my house last night. She made it in between 10 and 11. She rented the movie Paul, and we watched that.
Miranda's mother, however, continued to stick to the story, pleading that her and her daughter were together the whole night. This is most likely a story they rehearsed many times before this interview.
Now, if her mother didn't have anything to do with this home invasion and everything ahead of time, the fact that she's helping her after the fact is aiding an offender after the fact. Generally speaking, that carries with it half of what the guidelines are. So if the guidelines are life, probably 150 months, 180 months, 15 years, probably.
Frustrated, the detectives decided to conclude the interrogation, as it was clear it wasn't going anywhere.
How many times total you think you worked for Paul?
Well, it was 3 days a week.
At least once a week, I guess you'd make his bed.
Yes.
Okay.
The bed sheets, everything that took off the bed, put in the washer, and then put back on the bed.
So you never got anything off the closets?
The only time I ever went to the closet was just to hang up stuff, and that's it.
Okay. So you saw the safe?
So, let me just tell you this. People snoop. They all snoop. It's why you don't trust anybody that's in your home to do work in your home unless they're bonded, licensed and bonded, and they have a reputation. Now, they probably went through a company to get this gal, but what a tragedy, honestly.
Safe there.
Oh, I didn't think that was like a safe or anything.
What do you think it was?
I thought it was just like a box thing, like a metal box.
Be honest with me. What was the...
I didn't think that was a safe. I mean, sure, it had a combination on it. Sure, it looked like a safe. And sure, it had a handle that you go like this. But I didn't think it was a safe. What the fuck?
reason for bringing him over here? And be honest.
He was supposed to meet with some girl. I dropped him off.
You dropped Austin off just down the road from Paul's house, right? Miranda, be honest with me. You dropped him off just down the road from Paul's house.
Now, here's the thing. I know I say that a lot. I got a little wood carving that says, here's the thing. If she hadn't said anything, and all of a sudden she springs this on, during trial, that she dropped him off to go be with another woman, I don't know that anybody necessarily believe it, but they don't have all the lies she's already told. So there's no way to disprove it either.
Right?
Yes. Okay. Meeting some girl, and that's that. That's honestly it.
Miranda, I know we've been talking a long time to Detective Joe Mayo. Every time we come outside, there's a little bit more information that you've disclosed. And that's why we keep coming back in here and asking you some more questions.
At any time, she could terminate the interview. So they're into this for 2 hours. Why don't she just say, I want my lawyer?
Okay, because nothing seems to be adding up. When you guys went there last night, okay, and when you guys drove up there, you know, whatever you planned to do, did you expect it to unfold the way it unfolded? Did you expect Austin to act like that? Miranda, this is important. Things changed, right? Things changed, right?
Yes, sir. I thought you were just gonna scare him, just not her, just scare him.
Okay, so now he's got her to admit to the crime. But I mean, Austin's fucked no matter what. I mean, he's caught in the car, right? And I guarantee you his DNA is going to be all over everything.
Finally, an admission that she did indeed drop Austin off at Paul's house with the intent to make contact with Paul and not for Austin to see a girl. At this point, both the detectives and Miranda know there's no turning back from this. The truth is almost out.
What was Austin's new plan now?
I guess he just wanted everything.
I guess he just wanted everything. Everything. And this is all about drugs. I guarantee this is all drugs.
I haven't seen everything that he's got, so you tell me what everything is. What does he want from Mr. Paul?
I didn't care about what he got or anything. Like, I didn't even want Austin to go in the first place.
But he did go, and you knew he was going there to scare him.
Brendan, did he tell you to wait for him?
I waited for him down the street.
Now she is there as an accomplice, aiding an offender before the fact, which means you're on the hook for that homicide.
Where there was like a house for rent.
It must have been hell waiting. Did you ever go in the house just to see what was going on to get him?
Did you try to stop him?
I was only I passed the doorstep for a little while and I froze.
Okay.
She has now admitted that she was in Paul Quant's residence at the same time as Austin. However, she's trying her best to distance herself from the brutality of the crime that occurred by only showing peripheral complicity in the crime. In order to charge her for her involvement, the detectives need more admissions from Miranda.
You're just standing there.
I don't think they really do, honestly. She's admitted to being there. She's admitted to dropping him off. She's admitted to, I only thought we were going to scare him.
Standing there, right? Were you in shock? Did you hear Mr. Paul yell for help?
I couldn't hear anything. It was...
Miranda, what was he saying?
It was just, honestly, I just couldn't hear anything.
What time last night did you go over to Mr. Paul's house?
Between 9:30 and 10.
Between 9:30 and 10. And who went?
Austin went first, and then I followed. Austin rang the doorbell, and the next thing you know, he just pushes it open.
Did Mr. Paul see you?
I don't think he had a chance after Austin just pushed him.
And you've got a particularly vulnerable person here who's just going to play havoc with the jury and with the judge. Because when all of a sudden they start reading a victim impact statements and how beautiful this guy was and the brutality of the situation, you're fucked. Just absolutely fucked.
Do you follow him into the, you follow Austin in?
Yes, so I was standing like at the edge. He's like, throw that mask at me, put this on.
You threw the mask at you, told you to put it on?
Yes, sir.
What color was the mask?
It was a red Elmo.
You had a PIN number?
Red Elmo mask? Gives Elmo a bad name. But Elmo has been known to be a little homicidal at times.
I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!
Okay, so he got Mr. Paul's PIN number?
For the safe.
Okay. So did Austin tie him up?
Yes.
Is he begging for his life?
She just hesitated there. That pregnant pause probably means that she did it.
He just kept saying, I'll give you everything you want. Please stop. Oh, that hurt.
And what was Austin hitting him with?
It looked like his fist.
His fist? And did you see Mr. Paul bleeding? Yes? Okay.
I hate crimes like this. You know why I hate crimes like this? Because they're senseless. They're so easily avoided. They're a guarantee they're the product of drugs.
I didn't know if Austin was about to do something to me next.
Okay.
Oh, now we got the defense of duress.
You know that Austin's hitting him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying Austin's collecting everything in the house to take it. So what did Austin take?
I seen him with a box of stuff.
A box of stuff.
I don't know what all was in.
That's the other thing. All of a sudden, they find all his shit in the back of the car that he sold. In the case that I talked to you about earlier, where my client was a 18, 19-year-old kid, 17, 18-year-old kid, they found, just like this, a laundry basket full of this guy's stuff.
Any chance that maybe you collect anything in the house? Did you take anything?
Austin just kept telling me, take it.
And where did you put that stuff?
In the trunk of his car.
Did you drive the Cadillac out of the garage?
Yes, he made me drive to the bank.
You guys drove?
So she's setting this up for a self-defense of duress. Or so it seems. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a successful one, though.
Drove to the bank to use a debit card at the banks?
Yes.
What bank did you go to?
Capital.
Fucking A. How stupid is that? Use the debit card at the bank. Guess what happens? There's a photograph of you being taken. There's probably video of you being taken. And there's a written record of what you just did. Not to mention the fact if you go to a fucking cash machine, they flashes your picture when you take the money out. I mean, come on.
Did you go to an ATM machine? If we get some video from that ATM, is it going to be you?
Yes.
Whoops.
How much money did you take out?
4.
So you took out 400? Okay. Where'd you go next?
To a bank on Newberry, but it had exceeded.
Oh, exceeded limit.
But that was you too. I mean, if we pull the bank records,
It's me.
it's you. What are you feeling right now, Miranda?
I'm the worst person in the whole entire world. And
That's the first true thing she really said.
I let something bad happen to somebody that didn't deserve it, and I should have stopped it.
After the interview was concluded, it was obvious to the detectives that she was involved in the crime just as much as Austin was, even though she tried to paint a picture that she was a victim in this and that she was being forced by her cousin Austin the whole time. All this was later confirmed to be true when detectives searched the car where they found her journal. What they read highlighted the dark and evil nature of Miranda Martin and really destructed the facade she had put up of a scared individual who was being controlled and manipulated. In fact, she was the one who was manipulating everyone, and after reading her journal, it was clear to see the lengths she went to execute her plan.
So what do we call that journal? Self-snitching. How stupid is that?
The journal read, "I should have looked through the drawers. Got to get information on the location of the key. Get back in and set up entrance. Also make sure I set up a stepping system to boost myself up high enough. I want to do it really, really soon, but might have to wait a few months, thinking maybe sometime in December before Christmas." The detectives also found a key to Mr. Quant's house in the car. The key seemed to be an older one because sometime during the planning of this robbery, Paul Quant became concerned when he couldn't find the spare key to his house, forcing him to change the locks to his front door. The investigators believe that Miranda was indeed the mastermind behind this brutal murder, and her cousin Austin was the brute force she needed to carry out her plan.
And what is the information that leads them to that conclusion? It's her own words in her journal. If you're going to commit crimes, just a word to the wise, don't journal about it. Fucking moron.
Carry out her plan. Both Miranda Martin and Austin Jones were charged with attempted first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit home invasion robbery.
And both received life sentences. For what? For what? So let's say you and I go to rob Michael Rivers, our content genius. And I love Michael, but I'm short on cash and I know he's got a safe. And you decide in the course of this robbery burglary, that he needs to be beat over the head and you kill him. I'm on that hook for murder just as though I committed it myself. It's aiding and abetting. It's part and parcel of the whole thing. And it's reasonably foreseeable when you're committing another felony. What the hell? I just don't understand people. I just do not understand why you do stupid shit like this for a little gain. I mean, you think you're really going to ride around that fucking Cadillac and you're just going to be able to do that for the rest of your life? I mean, it got reported stolen, and you were pulled over close to the guy's fucking house. But when you're doing drugs and when you're a moron, you don't really, you think you got a plan, and it's just the plan of mice and men. You often go awry, right? So, my heart goes out to this guy who was murdered and his family. Just didn't need that. And, just unnecessary torture. Sounds like he would have given him everything anyway. But one of the things is that somebody close to him, oh, hi, Miranda, and they're able to get in without any trouble. And then they go south. Stupid. You know what? And that was a lot of work. That took them a lot of work to do that. Guess what? So does this. This takes a lot of work too. But it's a lot less work than sitting in fucking prison for the rest of your damn life. How dumb. Anyway, keep building, like I tell you. Don't go. And if you're on drugs right now and you're doing some of this shit, figure out a way out of it. Take a step back if you can. Reach out to your family. Reach out to your friends. Do something to build a life rather than take a life. So we'll see you next time here at Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. Behind the camera is Michael Rivers, our content genius. And we'll see you next time here at Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time. Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, and today we're reacting to the latest news in the Alex Murdaugh case. Yeah, the Alex Murdaugh homicide, a double homicide case. But before we get to the latest goings-on in that trial, this episode is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com. eSign.com is an effective way to remotely do business. Let's say you have a power of attorney, or you have any kind of sales agreement, any kind of agreement of rental agreement, any kind of agreement whatsoever, anything you need to have a signature. I use it all the time in my practice when the client can't come into the office. I just email them a retainer agreement, download the app, you get 3 free signatures a month, and it is just an effective way to and quick way, because you don't lose business that way. Sometimes when you do business, you have to act now. And eSign.com makes you so you can act now and preserve your business. So that's eSign.com. Use it, because we do. Now, where are we at in this trial? So the defense is rested, and they had an expert, and the expert testified about a bunch of stuff, about blood splatter, about 2 firearms, and his opinion that there was more than one shooter. So when the defense rests, what's next? Well, the state has the right to do rebuttal. I don't like this. Each side should just present their own thing, but the plaintiff always has a right of rebuttal. So the plaintiff went last, and that is the state. So the state of South Carolina, through their prosecutors, goes last. And so they can, but their rebuttal has to be something, witnesses that directly address things that were brought up by the defense. They can't just retry their whole case. Otherwise, that would be improper. The other thing that the judge is letting the jury do today is the judge is letting them do a site visit, basically a viewing of where the murders happened and the property. I don't know to what extent they're going to be able to go. I'm sure they're not going to be able to go in the house, but they'll be able to see the spatial difference between the dog kennels and the actual house and how far that was, and also the spatial arrangements of the kennels and how tight quarters these were, which makes a big difference for the defense expert. So let's get into the testimony of their expert.
The pellets coming out of here now would have definitely begun to spread, and you would have seen pellets all across the side of his left side of his face, which you didn't. And then finally, if you look at this angle here again, imagine door here, gun in this thing, then even if, and I think there's no evidence of it, but even if the shot could go through Paul's head and create an exit pathway, then that would project whatever pellets and bone matter that way. Whereas, if you move the shooter to the other side and we shoot into Paul downward this way, then all of this material comes back at the shooter, but also it's going this way into that upper corner, which is where we see the pellet defects and the heavy blood and the hair.
So basically what he's saying is if it's shot down like this, like in the angle that he assumes that it is, there'd be blowback. So in other words, there'd be splatter and bone matter and other kinds of things on the person who's shooting. And we don't have any of that.
Mr. Palmbach, let's talk a little bit about the reconstruction of murder of Maggie Murdaugh. Did you...
Now keep in mind, there were two different firearms. There's a shotgun and one that shoots a 300 blackout.
Assess the crime scene as it relates to her.
I did.
And what your observations?
Well, generally, there's a couple really key observations. One, all of her wounds were facing the direction of the shooter. So at all times during this, her shooting, she's facing the shooter. Now, she is moving, for sure. There is some degree of movement, from where the initial shooting most likely occurred, which is, we can't give you an accurate estimation for that. We can give you a really good estimation where it ended, and that's where we find her. And I'll talk about which wounds were associated with that in a minute. But you have her facing the attacker the entire time. At no point did she turn or blade or anything other than face him, and moved a little bit in the area, although not much.
So if somebody's facing you and they're not turning away, what does that tell you about the person? Does it mean that they knew them and then maybe they're pleading with them?
And then the shooter, based on the overall distribution of the shell casings, also moved, again, somewhat, moving, toward where the ultimate location where we find Maggie.
I'm going to show you two photos.
Now keep in mind, or keep an eye out and watch Alex Murdaugh's face as this testimony is going on. Because the jury's watching him like a hawk.
Defense Exhibit 163 and 164, and ask if you relied upon those.
I did.
Defense Exhibit 163 and 64 in evidence at this time.
No objection.
Minute. If you don't mind pulling out 163, Doug.
And it looks like, if you look at the monitor right in front of Alex Murdaugh, looks like they've got a piece of cardboard over it, which probably means he doesn't want to see the picture.
Jury's seen this, but just give us an overview of what this is.
Well, so Maggie is underneath the blanket there, and she's in a face-down position there.
Just leave it like that, don't it?
Her head is more toward us, and her feet are pointing more toward, I think what's been identified as a doghouse. You'll see placards in the foreground, 3 and 4, which are two of the blackout 300 casings. You'll see a placard 12, which is over on the grass, more in alignment. We're heading more toward.
When you have a semi-automatic firearm, it spits out the casings after it shoots. So you shoot the gun, it rocks another round in the chamber. As it does that, it spits out the used casing. So that's how you know what kind of firearm or what kind of bullet was used.
Maggie's head area, and that was a large piece of what appears to be brain-like material. And while you can't see the numbering, there are additional placards to the left, immediately to the left side. Well, they're on Maggie's right side, but as we view the photograph, they're to the left of where she's currently located. So this just gives us some general orientation of approximate locations of the shooter, and certainly...
Because when when those casings come out of the gun, they don't go that far. So you can kind of maybe do a small area where you think the shooter probably was.
Where at least the fatal shot to Maggie was taken.
All right. I'm gonna show you Defense Exhibit 149. And the other two would move to those be under seal and 149 under seal. Is this, you rely upon this in your conclusions?
I did.
Your Honor, we move, excuse me, Exhibit 194, not 149. 194 in the evidence, under seal at this time.
No objection.
Move it.
And when you move something under seal, that means it's not open to the public. So the court has a record, right? And everything that goes into the court record generally is public. But if you do something under seal, it is not for public view.
Oh, you mentioned marker 12 a moment ago and 163. And again, what do you understand 12 to be?
It's physiological material. I mean, it looks structurally like brain material, but it's tissue.
In your opinion, would the shooter of Maggie have any blood spatter, blood, biological material on him or her?
I think it's possible. I think it's possible because, as we're seeing here, that you have a projection of brain material backwards toward the direction of where the shooter would have been located. We also have a couple of the shots, the left thigh shot and the abdomen shot, which have been identified as having stippling around them. But
now, stippling is basically a contact wound, the significance of it is the proximity of the firearm to the target. So if I have stippling in my chest, that means somebody put a firearm right up to my chest and fired the gun. And so it's a round burn mark. We'll show you a copy of what stippling is here in a second, but it's a round burn mark that kind of indicates a close contact shot.
To being stippling, that does make it an intermediate distance, and that's going to move the shooter in anywhere from, I would agree. I think Dr. Einstein said a foot to 3 feet is probably a good approximation.
Because when you have, and it's from the flames that come out of the end of the barrel. So a foot to 3 feet, when you have an assault rifle that's shooting in blackout 300 or 300 blackout, you could get a contact wound, that is out that far. And one of the things that's good when you have your own expert is where he can agree with certain things that the state has said, because then if there's no disagreement, okay, so we agree on these parts, and this guy just seems credible. He doesn't seem grandiose. He doesn't seem like he's full of shit and just a hired gun.
Mr. Palmbach, do you have an opinion based upon more probably than not, in whether there was one or two shooters who murdered Maggie and Paul on the night of June 7th?
I do have an opinion on that.
And what's your opinion?
My opinion is the totality of the evidence is more suggestive of a two-shooter scenario.
Now, if you have the totality of the evidence is more suggestive of a two-shooter scenario, what does that mean? Was Alex one of the shooters? Or was it the random person? And if both are equally likely to be true, which we don't know that that's the case or the jury's thinking that, then the presumption of innocence hasn't been overborne. So where you have two theories of a case, one consistent with innocence and one consistent with guilt, but both equally likely to be true, you have to favor the one that, because you have the presumption of innocence, you have to favor that one.
And please explain the basis of your opinion.
Okay. So we'll also go back to Paul. In Paul's scenario, we know where the shooter of the shotgun had to be, and that would have been orientated really directly over Paul's head. And we also got a chance to see what was the effect of this dynamic explosion in the contact. And you can see outside and even in throughout the feet area in multiple and many large pieces of skull. We also saw large amounts of tissue that were projected all the way up onto the ceiling and the door.
So it was a really violent explosion of Paul's skull. And when you have that, and the purpose of him bringing this up is that whoever shot him would have some material on him.
The hair all the way up into the door. And of course, you see blood literally everywhere within there. And finally, you see the pellets. Some of the pellets are on that same pathway, and they had enough inertia to either or dent the door and put themselves up and stick into the casing. All of that activity was in direct alignment with the shooter. And so I think minimally, that shooter is getting covered with this material, getting more or less the shock wave of that effect, and more than likely getting hit with at least something that could have done injury, a bone.
So basically, he's firing down, you're getting this blowback, and some of it might have even been some of the pellets, some of the BBs from the shotgun shell. So when you're talking about these two different types of projectiles, you've got a shotgun shell and a 300 blackout. 300 blackout is kind of like a 223. It's a round that has a metal bullet with a brass casing that's got gunpowder in it. So you hit the gunpowder and the one bullet goes out. A shotgun shell usually has a plastic casing and it's all packed in there with gunpowder and then some BBs or pellets. It doesn't shoot just one single bullet. What it does, a shotgun shell shoots a spray of pellets, and this happened at close range. So that's what he's saying, is that some of these pellets would blow back to him.
I think that particular shooter, for a brief period of time, is kind of out of this. It's not as if they can instantaneously suffer that, drop the shotgun, run to wherever the blackout rifle is, pick that up, and then in any kind of a reasonable time period engage in a meaningful assault, an effective assault, able to shoot straight and make hits.
So this posits, three different scenarios, in my opinion. Alex did this with somebody else. Alex hired somebody to do this, or some random people just came and did this. Now, keep in mind that Alex admitted already to hiring somebody to try to kill him. And so does it out of the realm that he would hire somebody to do this? I don't know.
So that, I think, is one of the major indicators of concern. I think the other things to consider is that all of this is very temporal. It's very close. I know when I looked at the photographs versus being there, I'm like, it is much closer together than it looks like in the photo. So it is
that right there, that statement right there, it's much closer than it looks like in the photos. I guarantee you the judge probably relied on some of that when the defense asked for a viewing of the kennels.
Very close. With Paul, as I articulated, I believe he was shot first. I believe he had no idea it was coming. And he took the shot to the chest and very soon thereafter, the one in the back of his head. Anybody in the near proximity to that, if Maggie had been anywhere in that area walking around down there, she would have heard that. And her response would have been in the direction of the shooter or the activity, or run, or do something different. So I think that the temporal location suggests that these things more probable than not happen fairly quickly, and that the individual who shot first with the shotgun minimally was stunned, probably blood and material in his eyes, and maybe have been injured, and would have taken some degree of time to recover. And lastly, I think there is just more or less in the. Let
me just tell you, representing somebody like Alex Murdaugh would be very difficult because you're dealing with a smart guy because he's a lawyer. He's also a narcissist, and he does anything he can do to save his ass. And he's probably going to be dictating, which way the defense goes quite a bit.
Anybody who deals with firearms, a logical argument here. Why would one shooter bring two long rifles, two long weapons to the event? You can't handle and shoot two of them. So you either got to put one down, use one, and then swap out and grab the other one. Or I suppose you could have one on a sling, but that's quite awkward, and it's slipping around and it's banging around in an environment we know is very, very tight. Finally, if one of the weapons is the Blackout 300, well, that comes with a high magazine capacity. My research of that showed that the Palmetto State Armory upper, which we don't know, we have no idea what gun this is because it hasn't been identified. But if the state, I think, has alluded to that, if that's the case, then a weapon that had that Palmetto State Armory in a 300 Blackout, a person could purchase a 10-round capacity clip, a 20-round capacity clip, or a 30-round capacity.
And think about that. That does make sense. I mean, if you have a 300 Blackout or like an AR-15 kind of weapon, and you're firing, you wouldn't need to have a shotgun. So it is suggestive of two people there.
Where I live in Connecticut, we are really restricted on what kind of weapons we can have and what kind of clips we could have. We'd have to, even if we could have an AR, which is very restrictive, we'd have to get a 10-round clip. Other than that, it wouldn't make sense for anybody to buy a 10-round clip when you could buy a 20 or 30. But having said that, if it was a 10-round clip, there were only 8 shots fired. You still had 2 more to go, and you could have more than not easily reloaded. So to me, there's structurally difficult for the same shooter to have 2 arms.
So did you hear that? So 8 shots were fired out of that assault rifle. 8 shots. Somebody wanted, against somebody who was unarmed. Somebody wanted somebody dead. Period.
And no practical reason for that to happen. Add that to what I believe happened to the shooter who fired first with the shotgun, and I think it tips in favor of the probability of 2 shooters.
Mr. Palmbach, the person who shot Paul, was he or she standing in the feed room at least 1 foot?
Yes.
Was there an opportunity to do a footprint analysis to illuminate more clearly the existence of footprints there?
For sure. I mean, all of us, several.
And this is a criticism of the investigation, that they had their man, so they didn't look for anybody else, and they didn't do a full investigation by analyzing footprints that may or may not have been there.
For myself, and I believe others have opined about this, including some of the analysts in the case, there are what appear to be partial footprints in blood in the feed room and on the cement around it. And while I'm not a footwear pattern expert, I can generally recognize what appears to be footwear or partial footwear impressions. I would agree with that. But in order to go beyond as a general pattern to something more specific, that generally what you do, and I've done this countless times, is you spray enhancement reagents on them. And you spray a reagent, we generally call them blood pattern enhancer reagent, or you can even use a straight protein spray.
So this is a common tactic of the defense when you attack the investigation. And because you're saying that, well, not everything was exhausted. And if there was the potential for footprints belonging to somebody else that didn't belong to the defendant, well, you have to take that into account.
Iridium black would be an example of one of those. And by spraying those reagents in the area, it reacts with the presence of blood or proteins, and it brings up the transformation. It gives you a lot more clarity, a lot more detail, and you can tell an awful lot more about a particular footwear pattern. Absolutely should have been done in this case. And I also believe, second to that, you had a lot of dirt in the immediate area that should have had at least partial footwear impressions, and I saw no indication of any attempt to either look for it, photograph it, properly photograph.
And that goes to the theory that you rush to judgment. You had your guy, you figured out who this was, or at least you thought you did, and so you didn't need to do a full investigation, and that can be kind of powerful stuff.
Or analyze it.
And thank you. One moment, y'all.
That's the direct examination of the defense expert. I watched the cross of the defense expert. I don't think she really touched him at all. One of the things that they do, you've been paid by so and so, and you're making so much money, and blah. You're being hired by the defense, and most of your cases are defense, and but then you try to pick out where they disagree. And but I thought that defense expert did a really good job of positing a scenario that pointed away from the defendant. Stay tuned because we're going to continue to follow this. There's other developments. We'll have parts 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 of the rest of the trial, and we'll give you some good in-depth analysis. This was a really good glimpse into the defense expert, and you can see the testimony wasn't that long. And one of the things the defense lawyer has to do, and actually prosecutors have to do this too, you have to be well versed in the science. You have to be able to talk the talk. You have to be able to walk the jury, through your expert and go through the science, and you have to know just as much as the expert does, because you got to be able to cross-examine somebody on the fly, and you got to be able to put your case in, and you have to understand the evidence. So this is Bruce Rivers. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on